Today we will be transforming bikini pattern top winter with the square neckline into a bandeau with a V-wire on the front. We prepared a specific video for the pattern transformation regarding the design of the piece, because we wanted to teach you, if you have a V-wire with a certain shape or size, how you can adjust the pattern to that V-wire. So first, please check that video before you dig into this tutorial. We will now assume that you have seen that video and we are starting to get our pieces ready. So I'm going to show you, I already did it in one V-wire, but I'm going to show you on this second one that I'm preparing. What I did was, with the wire channeling, I inserted from one edge until I reached the other edge of the V-wire, and I closed with a straight stitch. On the opposite side, I did exactly the same. Of course, trim the excess threads and channeling, and you will then have your wire cased inside your channeling. I also cut slightly on the outer side of the V-shape, on the lower part of the V-shape, just so that the channeling is flatter against the swimwear fabric. I have my fabrics cut on my table and my darts are already sewn. If you need help with this, just watch the tutorial on how to sew bikini pattern top winter, because everything is explained there. Here I'm going to be focusing on the V-wire shape. So I'm going to pin the V-wire shape on the front for now, with the two fronts facing each other. And I'm going to pin and sew a seam line with 0.8 millimeters from the edge of the V. But to make this easier, I'm going to mark with a pen exactly the tracing that I want to sew with my sewing machine. This is because it's easier, it's a curved line, it will end up finishing lower than the cut that we have on the fabric, so it's much easier if we have the line drawn on the fabric. Make sure that it's a washable pen, or it's easier to and it's easy to remove once you have sewn. I'm going to be using a straight stitch, but I have an elastic stitch on my machine. But even if you don't have, you can use the straight stitch. Don't forget that we need to reinforce the shape of the V on the lower part of our V. We need to go back and forth just on the V shape to make sure that the stitches stay in place, because we are going to trim and cut. You will see. I'm not going to be using the 4-layer method, so to combine the front with the back, I'm not going to use the 4-layer methods, because, as I said before on other videos, the connection between the front and the side piece and the back pieces on the side is never perfect when you sew over 4 layers. So I will show you how to do it. Just keep following the video. So for now, mark the seam line and sew these two fabrics together on your straight stitch machine, if possible with an elastic stitch. Now, with a scissor or your roller cutter, like I do here, cut the V shape until you reach almost the threads that you have sewn. Be careful not to cut the threads though. And now you can easily turn the piece to the right side and perfectly see where you are going to align the channel with the wire that we have prepared before. To stabilize the seam against my second fabric, which is my white one, I'm going to do an understitch. So lay your seam towards the side of your second fabric and use a straight stitch to do the understitch. You can now easily reverse it to the right side and see how perfect it is, the front of the V. But let's move on and attach the back piece to the front piece. On the lining, and be careful on the direction of this piece of the side seams, so that it's according to the pattern design, okay? Since this is a bandeau, I'm gonna apply boning, and my boning is to be sewn directly onto the fabric with a zigzag stitch. However, I'm gonna leave 1.5 centimeters from the top edge and 1.5 from the lower part, because I need that seams more free to then be finished when I need to finish my top. Pin the side seams, also pin please the main fabric, don't forget to flatten the seams of your darts, and we will go over this to the sewing machine and sew over these 4 lines. However, on the lining sides, we will also zigzag with the boning. To sew these 4 edges, use your overlock and, of course, don't apply the elastic. Now, with everything sewn in place, we can arrange our fabrics right sides facing together, and we will sew the top seam of our top. I will pin all around my top seam, and I will apply the elastic on the side of my main fabric. And just go to your overlock, apply the elastic all around, and that's it. As my rubber elastic is 0.8 centimeters, 5/16 inches, and my stitch width is a little bit smaller, this means that I always have a little bit of elastic that it's not actually sewn by my overlock, which means that once I reverse all my top to the right sides, I will always hide my second fabric because of that small difference between the width of my elastic and the width of my overlock stitch. So now I reversed the entire top to the right sides, and we are ready to secure our V-shape on the front. So I'm gonna grab my V-shape and use the lower edge of my top, which is open, and insert and place the V-wire in place. I'm gonna pin it in place, and using my zipper foot on my sewing machine with a straight stitch, I'm going to secure the V in exactly on the spot that I want. So very carefully tuck the V-shape inside your top, pin so that it's easier for you on your sewing machine to then sew it in place. And as I told you, I use my zipper foot to go closer to the seam that I want to sew, and I'm able to do a very thin straight stitch all around my V-shape wire. Just to stabilize my fabrics, I usually also pin on the side seams or put a clip just to stabilize my fabrics so that they are not dancing around. So you can put some pins around your top so that the fabrics don't slide, and this will probably make your life easier on the sewing machine. Once everything is in place, the pins and my V-wire is in place, I'm just going to reposition the pins transversely to the sewing direction, because as you know, the pins should not be on the same direction in which you are sewing. So I'm just going to replace the position of the pins transversely to the direction of my sewing so that I can go over the pins if I need to. And our V-shape is now sewn in place, and we can move on to the last part of our top. Don't go now, because I still have a trick to show you. We should trim the second fabric at least half of the seam allowance, so that it will not end up being excess fabric on your second fabric. I should have done this in the beginning, but I completely forgot, but we can still do it now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim all around my white fabric, my second fabric, half of my seam allowance on the lower part of my top. And you will see that once you do this, and once the top is ready, you will have no excess fabric on your second fabric. If you leave with the same size of the fabric, you will have excess fabric. Now we have the fabric on the right sides, and I'm going to pin all around under the bust, but this time I'm going to apply my elastic on the side of my second fabric, and when that's done, I'm going to fold and do a zigzag as a top stitch. If you want, you could do this with a clasp on the back to make it adjustable and to be a little bit more flexible regarding the width around your under the bust measurement, but I'm sure this is my size, so I used the transformation pattern that I did, just like I told you. And so here it is. I'm just missing the zigzag parts on the lower parts. I think that the V-wire is a bit too big for this bandeau. It should be a little bit smaller. And you can also finish this edge, I thought, after I do this, with a different way, with it under the bust, with a band, with an elastic band under the bust. It would be an option, which I didn't do in this case, but it's also an option if you want to go for that look. And here it is, the final result. Please don't forget to share your own sewing projects with us, and see you soon. Bye, girls!